Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How is everyone doing today? I hope everyone is having an amazing Thursday. If you are tuning into this live stream, you know why you're here, I'm sure, but let us know you are here, where you are watching from. And in case you guys did not know, I am joined by a fantastic friend of mine here, Mr. Dustin from Keto Simple, the beard, as I call him in my house very affectionately. He is here joining us. We're going to talk with him and get a whole bunch of info about his story and just kind of all the things that are important to him. And we're going to have some fun. We're going to hang out. We're going to try to answer some questions for you guys and just have a generally good old time. So if you're here, let us know that you are here because we love knowing that you guys are watching and what's going on with your lives and where you are from. So, Dustin, how are you today, my friend?
I'm doing fantastic, Chris. Thank you for having me. I truly appreciate it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It is a pleasure. Dustin and I have known of each other for quite a while here in the sphere since I've been doing the YouTube thing, but he's been doing this longer than I have, and it wasn't until oh gosh, probably halfway through the length of my channel that I've been doing this that we actually kind of connected and started talking and found out we actually have a great deal of things in common with our sort of approach to the world of keto and carnivore and low carb type things and our goals with what we want to do to help people. So it's a real pleasure to have him on. He's a very good friend, and it means a great deal to me to get to hang out with him. And he has been very supportive of the work that I do. I try to be just as supportive of the work that he does, and together we rise and we succeed. And Dustin shows that more than probably almost anybody that I know in the keto and carnivore communities with the way that he is just in people's live streams and in their comment section and sharing their videos. And he's supportive of the work that they do and is encouraging to people. Just an all around good guy. So if you guys don't know Dustin, I'm very excited that you are going to get to meet him, and his channel will be linked in the description box. If you don't subscribe to him already, you absolutely should. He does some amazing live streams himself, which I love getting to watch. And his Sunday morning live that he does, where he's having his coffee, is what Ash and I do every Sunday morning while we are having our coffee. We sit and interact with him in the comments. So, Dustin, thank you so much for being here. Let's take a look at who's here real quick, and then I'm gonna grill you for the entertainment of the masses, if that's all right.
Looking forward to it.
Sounds like fun. Let's see. Miss Carnivore K is here. Hey, they're all cold here. Yeah, it's getting cold a lot of places, but Kay, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, it's cold and
Um,
snowy here.
Yes, yes. My parents are up in the direction where Dustin is up there in Indiana, and they sent me some pictures of the snow too. So, Auntie Broken and Healing is here. So I think Shauna is starting to hopefully feel a little bit better in certain ways since she's broken and healing now. So she is here. Carnivore K says we got some rain before this cold front. We needed it bad, but it hurts me when these fronts come through. I understand. I understand. I have a lot of people don't know, but I broke my left ankle really bad back before I knew what keto and carnivore was when I was getting close to my heaviest weight. That contributed to probably the last 20 or 30 pounds of my weight gain on top of just bad lifestyle. I had a bum ankle. And I have a big metal rod in that ankle now because I was so big at the time. They said we need to put a metal rod in, or you won't be able to probably walk very well, and this will just it'll break again if we don't put some extra support in there. So I got a big metal rod in my left ankle, and when cold weather and stuff goes through it, it really gets cold and it gets achy down there. So let's see, Mr. Matt Franklin is here. Hey, howdy, hey everybody, and of course
All
I'm here.
all the great people in here.
All of them. There's Mr. Rick says my power is back on. And Visual Keto is here. Says thank goodness for that, Rick. Yeah, Rick, we're glad your power is back on. That's no fun when you don't have any power and you're trying to do stuff. Lynn is here, the OG 22Q cat. Hey, Chris, Dustin, and you all. How are you, Lynn? Really glad you're here. And let's see. We've got Mr. Sean SD Bradley 510 is here. Good evening, all. Very good to see you, Sean. We appreciate you joining. There is my lovely wife in here helping moderate for us tonight. And Visual Keto says, Sonya here in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Chilly and last night, snow. I hate winter. When you're a big, hairy, greasy guy like me, you tend to like winter, not because of winter, but because of the fact you're not hot and sweaty as much all the time.
I like winter if I don't have to drive in the snow, and I like the snow because it's beautiful and it just there's a calming effect when there's snow on the ground.
Right. I'm right there with you. I totally agree. If I don't have to go anywhere, it makes all the better to just kind of sit there and enjoy the peacefulness that snow creates, I think. Love Music Learning is here. Says hi from Central Florida. Well, good to see you. And there's Miss Maritza. Hi, Chris and Dustin. Hi, Maritza. We're very glad you are here. Jolene is here. Hi, Chris and Dustin. God's blessings to you both. Thank you so much, Jolene. We're very glad you're here. Lioness Hiker, Diane Augustine. Howdy, y'all, from Altus, Oklahoma. Very, very cool. We're glad you're here. Easy Peasy Keto is in the house. And Miss Holly Springer is here as well. Says good evening, all. Richard Williams, that's our neighbor here in Copper Hill, Tennessee, is here. And I love when I go through the comment section when we do these, like everyone's talking to each other and saying hi because they all know each other. This is why Dustin and I love doing this so much, because everybody knows each other. And we all support each other, and that's kind of our whole thing. It is. Everybody knows your name. Cindy says, popping in to say hi. I'm at bowling. We'll watch the replay. Can you believe that? She's choosing a bunch of pinheads over us.
10 pinheads instead of 2 pinheads, I guess.
That's right. I don't know. I mean, I got this going on, but you got the bowling ball thing going a little better than I do. So John is here. Hey, John, good to see you, my friend.
Mr. Googahan.
Keto Amy. Yeah. Jeanette Cleveland, cold and snowy here.
Waukesha.
A lot of people. Yeah, a lot of people dealing with that cold and snowy, it seems. There's Liz Williams. Hi, Chris and Dustin. Made it for the live. Glad you did, Liz. So glad you're here. There is A. Scott McCoy from Florida. I bet it's not snowy down there. Matt says it didn't even hit 70 degrees here in Central Florida today. Yeah, well, I got up this morning. I think it was about 9 a.m. and I asked what the temperature was outside of my little digital assistant device, which I will not say the name so that she doesn't start talking to me. But I asked the device, what is the temperature outside? Because I was getting ready to leave to go get some holiday food, do some shopping stuff ahead of Thanksgiving. And it was like 49 degrees. And I'd asked what the weather was, and it says, today the high will be 49 degrees. Like, all right, we hit the high at 9 a.m. Got it. So,
time to go back to bed.
That's right. It's like, well, this is as good as it's going to get today, folks. Time to take a nap. Lisa is here. Hey, y'all, Chris and Dustin. Sorry I'm late. Lisa, you can be late anytime you want. That is no problem. We're just glad you're here. Jeff Foltz is here. If you grill him, will he be well? I like things medium rare, so I won't grill him too hard. All right. JJ is here, the dynamic duo, back at it again. What's up, guys? What's up, JJ? We're very glad you are here, my friend. I don't know if we're dynamic, but we're definitely a duo tonight. And there's Milady Laugh a Lot. It's very good to see you, my friend. James Ortega, thank you, Ash, for the birthday wishes, and they are appreciated. James, happy birthday or late birthday. I forget when it was Ash wished you happy birthday, but happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday, buddy. I'm pretty sure I sent a Facebook thing on that, but I can't remember for sure. It's so things just blend together.
It is so hard when you do this kind of stuff on social media the way Dustin and I do. It is so hard to keep track of everyone's names plus everyone's handles plus everyone's like actual thing that maybe they go by when you meet them, plus like everything on all the different social media platforms and all the pictures. I mean, like there is 100 different things that you have to try to keep track of. And it is so hard to remember who you did or didn't wish happy birthday to anymore because you connect with hundreds and hundreds of people every day. So it's not because of a lack of love if we miss something.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Carol is here. Hello from Central Texas. Good to see you, Carol. Jennifer Lucas is here. Good evening, beautiful people. Hi, Jennifer. It's good to see you. All right. And it's so funny. I'm just scrolling and everyone's talking to everybody.
Jen said, "Don't let me sing."
That's right. That's right. It's okay. I'm going to grill him. I'm going to keep him talking so he can't. And Milady Laugh a Lot makes a great point here. Can we shout out Cindy Demanch, who hit 1,000 subscribers this morning? Absolutely.
That is so for you. Those of you who don't understand what kind of milestone that is in YouTube, the fact of just hitting 1,000 subscribers is statistically unlikely. It's phenomenal. It just goes to show the dedication, the work, and the passion that she has for putting content out and doing lives just like we do, and the support that she has for the community. And I think that that's just a testament to how awesome that she is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's very hard work to do this kind of stuff. And, I don't remember. Do you remember off the top of your head, Dustin, what percentage of YouTubers ever even hit 1,000 subscribers? I know it's very low.
I know it is very, very low. I want to say, I know that only 3% ever get monetized.
Right.
I don't remember what hits 1,000, but
yeah, it's a very low percentage of people that do this that ever get to that point. So it's a huge milestone, and Cindy deserves all the congratulations in the world for that. Rickwin96 is here. Hello, my friend.
Joe.
Rosemary Palmer is here. Says YouTube isn't letting me know when lives are on. Well, that's a bummer. Make sure you've hit that notification bell on our channels. Sometimes YouTube likes to get a little funky and it'll turn things like that off, or it'll unsubscribe you. So just make sure you're subscribed and you are hitting that notification bell to get notified. And but you know what? That's totally okay. We're glad you're here now. Rockin' Keto Amy says, Chris, I bought the ingredients for your carnivore mashed potatoes today. Can't wait to make them. Well, Keto Amy, I hope you love those mashed potatoes. That is such a cool recipe, and it's so much fun. And with Thanksgiving coming up, it's very, very helpful for those of us who want to remain very carnivore or keto, low carb, and still want to have something a little like mashed potatoes. And if you're like me and you don't care for the mashed cauliflower thing, that's, I think, the best option to go for. So I hope you enjoy those as much as I do. See, Dustin, you said you haven't gotten a chance to make that recipe yet. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah, I haven't had a chance to make it.
Yeah. It's not like you're busy or anything with the lady in the house and the kids and the grandkids and all of the different family stuff going on or anything. G420 is here, says, hey, fellas. Good to see you, my friend. And Lisa is here. Lisa has a question. Hello from South Carolina. Question. Want to make this change in my life for health and weight reasons. Does everyone just jump in cold turkey, or do you make a gradual transition? First of all, what an amazing question. And thank you for being here to ask that question, not like feeling embarrassed or something to ask that question. Because I feel like a lot of times people errantly believe that somehow that's a dumb question. And I think it's a very valid question. I have my thoughts. Dustin, what do you think about that? What do you suggest?
I think it really comes down to the individual. I know that when we and we'll touch on this a little bit further, and as we get into the interview portion of this, but the way that we did it, we went through and got rid of everything out of our house. We donated or threw away everything. But that may not be something that is possible for you. Times as they are, as expensive as food is, it may not be feasible to get rid of everything in your house. So I think looking inward and finding out what might be best for you financially, as well as where you are. I would say that it's almost always best to do what you can to just completely eliminate all the temptations out of the house, anything that isn't going to be on plan for you. That would be, I think, would be ideal, but I know that not everybody has the capability of doing so.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think Dustin is absolutely right. If you can just go cold turkey all in and you can be successful that way, and there's 100 different factors that may make you more or less successful at that. If you know yourself well enough to say, that's what I have to do, absolutely do it. Don't waste any time. But if you either know yourself to say, financially, I can't just throw everything out in my house and just go, buy all of this stuff all at one time, totally understand that. If you also know yourself well enough to know, if I try to just pull the plug on this whole thing and just try to do a light switch moment and flip over to something super strict, and it's going to be like super difficult, and I'm not the kind of person that wants to try to just grit my teeth and get through the hard part of that, which is that first 3 to 6 weeks usually. If you know yourself well enough to say, I don't succeed well at things like that, don't beat yourself up if you know somebody else who can do it cold turkey, that somehow you're not set up for success that way. That doesn't make you a failure, doesn't make you any less, means you're a little bit different in how you need to approach it than maybe that other person you're thinking of. And whatever it is that's going to make you the most successful, it's going to be the most helpful to you, both with your financial situation and with just your personality, the psychological side of this, and the social elements that go with it. Make smart decisions about how you think is most likely going to be successful, and you will thank yourself in the long run. That's my advice anyway.
And one thing I would have to add to that is the fact that you've already, like Chris said, you've already taken, the initiative to be here, to ask the question. I would take that a step further and lean on the community. Be here, ask questions, let us know how you're doing, keep us posted how you're doing, what you have questions about, because there's nothing that we haven't been asked before. Almost there's nothing that we haven't really heard of or seen that we can't guide you through, or someone in the chat can't give you some wisdom. There's always going to be someone here to help you and make sure that you're doing everything you need to do.
Absolutely.
So don't be afraid.
Absolutely. And I mean, Dustin has his Sunday morning lives. He goes live on Tuesday nights as well, right after I do. I go live on Tuesdays in my kitchen at 6 p.m. Central's time, so that's 7 p.m. Eastern. I'm cooking, but you are welcome to bring your questions because I do it all live, so I can show people recipes and answer questions. Dustin has his Tuesday lives and his Sunday lives set up in a way where the community is all there, and it's all about chatting and helping each other, doing that kind of stuff. I also have a Monday morning motivational live that I do on both of my channels. You can tune in, or you can even just come listen to it afterwards like a podcast. So if you haven't yet, make sure you subscribe to our channels, and then you'll find more people through that where you can go subscribe to other channels. And it's like, this is why we do this. I have recipes to help get you through cravings, or to help you start replacing things in your life that might be socially and culturally important to you, but the carbs don't do a lot of good for you. Dustin has all of these people in this community that are very tight knit, that love to be so welcoming and so open to anyone who has these questions. And Dustin himself is a wealth of knowledge. And we, of course, between the two of us, we know so many other people in the community that if we haven't dealt with it and we don't know the answer, we probably know someone who has, or we know someone who can give you an answer. And we're more than happy to help you. So don't ever hesitate to reach out and lean on the community, just like Dustin said. All right. Rosemary's saying hello to everyone from North Dakota. I bet it's cold up there. And Maritza says, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you're not already. Yes, thank you so much, Maritza. If you guys haven't done so, please hit the thumbs up and the like button on whatever platform it is you're watching on. Subscribe to our channels, or follow our pages, or whatever the deal is wherever you are watching. That way you know when we're around, and hit the notification bell so that it notifies you when we do stuff like this, because Dustin and I both do a whole bunch of really cool stuff, and we're trying to help people. But we are not capable of getting the word out there because we might be sitting at the steering wheel, but as I've said before, you guys are the engine that drives the vehicle, and without you guys, we have no chance to reach anybody because that's how algorithms work. And with mouth, you guys telling people that this is cool, this means so much more to the people that you know and love than either of us trying to convince them to listen to what a couple of random guys on the internet have to say. All right. Jennifer wants to know if I have an antipasto salad recipe. I do not, but maybe I can work on that for you, Jennifer. I might be able to see what I can do. Let's see. Darth Carnivore, Charlie's here. Hello, my friend. He's going to be doing a live stream with me coming up soon too. Everybody keep an eye out for that. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I'm really looking forward to learning more about his before and after kind of story and where he's come from and all that. Very cool. And I see there's some people here giving some advice for what it is they did, and whether they want to go cold turkey or whether they want to go through. So this is a great example. Lisa, you come in here and people can give you their stories and their advice, and it can encourage you in figuring out what the right way is for you to get into it as well. And this is actually a really good one. I'll go ahead and put this one up for you guys. Lioness Hiker says, I started with getting rid of sugar to start, then went to less than 40 carbs per day. Over 6 weeks, got to less than 10 carbs per day. Then I went carnivore and been carnivore for 15 months now. So that's like that progression. And sometimes that really makes a difference if you're a person who needs that kind of approach to things to be successful. You can totally do that. So, it's been done both ways. All right. Well, we're caught up on comments. And I'm going to kind of dive in here because one of the reasons that I asked Dustin to do this is not only is he just my brother in this keto and carnivore thing and just in, life in general. And we love Dustin very much here, but also I know about Dustin from his channel and the things that he says and he talks about, but he's one of those guys, he's like an onion. There's a lot of layers, and I keep finding that the more I peel back, the more stuff there is that I didn't know about him. And I was like, this is the kind of story that people really benefit from hearing. So I wanted him to come on and just tell us a little bit about himself, what's kind of going on with his journey, where he's at, and maybe we can all just, get some wisdom and some information from a really cool guy who has a lot of information to share. So, Dustin, tell us a little bit about sort of yourself, your journey, and honestly, how you became Dustin from Keto Simple.
Okay, so it all kind of started. I was a big guy. I was going through some issues. I had an umbilical hernia. So it means like I had a hernia that was poking through my belly button. It was like the size of my fist. Like in my t-shirt, you could see it. And, I had it for many years, probably 6 years. And the wife, being a nurse, had been bugging me to take care of it, as she's going to. And we started down the path of starting to vet some doctors and going to the doctors. And then I was also having issues with sleep apnea. So I was kind of seeing a doctor for that as well. And in the process of going to the doctor for the sleep apnea, the hernia surgery kind of process, just stepping on the scale, I found that I was over 420 pounds. And it's not a secret that I was that big. I knew I was big, but I'd got to the point where I was buying 5XL t-shirts and I was wearing 50-inch waist pants, which I, wear it under the gut. Cause as a guy, you can wear it under the gut or you can wear it over the gut. Right. And if I would have worn it over the gut, it probably would have been a 60+ inch waistband. So sometimes when I say I had a 50-inch waist, they're like, oh, that's not that big. Well, my actual waist was probably 64, maybe 65 inches, that's a lot. I was a very big guy and started to have, a lot of comorbidities start to pop up. And so we knew we needed to do something. So the wife and I talked and, obviously the subject of like weight loss surgery came up. And at the time she was a nurse on a med surg floor dealing with like pancreatic cancers, and she was also dealing with the like the complications of like R&Y, the Roux-en-Y surgeries, the sleeve surgeries and such. So all the weight loss surgeries, she would see the complications that need the people coming back in because things over time didn't go well. So they'd gone through the surgery, healed from the surgery, and then needed more work. So she would see this. So that was something that was scary to her, as you would imagine. So we decided that that would be the absolute last thing that we would do. So she was like, let's try this low carb thing. And I'm like, well, what does that even mean? Because at the time, we had no idea. You know, we've gone through decades of what's healthy. You know, we had gone through, it was kind of funny looking back, like the idea of what we used to buy at the grocery store, thinking we were being healthy for the kids. We would buy cereal with low sodium that had whole grain, that wasn't, you know, whatever. So we were buying basically the same sugary cereals as long as they said low sodium, whole grain, fortified, you know. So just going to the store, we went, I know we went 2 trips at least where we spent a couple of hours going and combing through the grocery store, anything and everything we could think of that we thought in our minds were healthy. We're going through quinoa, we're going down looking at raisins and canned fruit and all these things, all the stuff that we've grown up, especially, you know, I was born in 1979. So like the low fat revolution started hitting the mid 80s. You know, Snackwells came out in the 90s. So we was like low fat, all this stuff. So we had all this propaganda, all this, you know, I mean, basically propaganda, all the stuff from the commercials, the selling points of all these foods telling us that they're healthy, heart healthy check marks and this, that, and the other. So we went through the grocery store a few times with a fine tooth comb, and we were like totally like flabbergasted of the fact that everything had so much carbs in it. Like everything basically has like a serving size, and that serving size is about 35 grams of carbs. Seems to be the way it works out. But anyway, so we did that, and we were like, okay, so what's low carb? So we kind of started getting to the point where we were implementing a low carb diet, which was probably still about 150 total carbs a day, because we didn't even know about net carbs at the time. And so I was like, okay, so I started looking for low carb recipes, and I was looking up soups. I was like, well, what can we make? What's easy? Because we both worked, get home at 6 o'clock at night, trying to throw something together. How can we make this? And so, you know, came across a website for soups that was a ketogenic website for kids with epilepsy. I can't remember the name of it. It was some kind of foundation website. I'm like, what is ketogenic? And then I was like, okay. And one day I was at the doctor with my grandmother, who actually was my general practitioner. He had mentioned in passing, you know, if you want to lose weight, you got to be in ketosis. But he didn't elaborate. So my GP mentioned to me, if I wanted to lose weight, I needed to be in ketosis. So I was like, okay, ketosis, that must have something to do with keto, ketogenic. So I was a huge person in podcasting at the time. So I was going and listening to podcasts on my way to and from work every day. So I found 2 keto dudes, and that's kind of the history of it. They started talking about the benefits of keto. Like Richard had like saved his toe. He was going to lose a toe. And yeah, so that really, we started based on that. We went through, got rid of everything out of the house. We had 2, you know, teenage boys in the house at the time, and they were not thrilled. They were planning a mutiny, and so we got rid of everything. We got rid of the margarine. We threw food away. We gave food, you know, we threw it away. We gave it away. We got rid of everything. So we really started from scratch. And like every month, I was losing like 10 pounds a month, 10 pounds a month. And I'm like, this is crazy. Like, I never thought that it would be so seamless. I mean, I had a couple, you know, I had a couple of things with, you know, dealing with the keto flu, because I had no idea about electrolytes and how
Mm,
their role impacts the keto flu and keto, adaptation and all that stuff. I had no idea. I didn't learn that
right.
till many years later, right? But, so that's kind of where we started. And I decided, so the Keto Simple came out. I was like, okay, let me go ahead and I'll start sharing my food on Instagram. Let me change my name on Instagram. I was like, Keto Simple, it just kind of popped in my head. I was like, okay, and I did it and I ran with it. And that's kind of where we are now. I didn't start the YouTube channel until 2020. Well, 2020, I put my first video up. It was kind of like me telling my story. And if you go look at that very, very first video, it's a night and day difference from what you see now.
Hmm.
Just how well, like talking to the camera is a very foreign thing. So keep that in mind if you go back and look at that very first video.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then basically hit the ground running 2021, and that's where we're at now. So at my lowest weight, it was pre-pandemic, I got down to about 273,
Hmm.
which was mind blowing. I got down to a 38-inch pant, still under the gut.
Hmm.
Extra large shirts, extra large 2XL, depending on the cut of the shirt.
Hmm.
Huge 5X the single or double X, depending on the shirt, from 50-inch to 38-inch. Like I could actually buy pants at Costco.
Yeah.
And before I was only able to buy pants at Kmart because Kmart had just a couple. They had pants that went to 50, 55, 60 or whatever. And I was like, okay, so trying to find clothes at that size was ridiculous. And I was
Hmm.
terrified. And I've been kind of that way since like middle school. I was always afraid I wasn't going to be able to find clothes to fit me. The weird fears that you have. But yeah, so that's just basically where it comes down to. Now I'm about 300 pounds, depending. The pandemic, I gained some weight, picked up some bad habits that I've been working to remove.
Hmm.
And basically just started being, a beacon in the community, hopefully to help people not get to where I was or help them
Hmm.
navigate away from where I was.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's really cool. I like the fact that Dustin is he definitely knows that I'm on his same team with this kind of concept, but this thing of like uh talking about the fact openly we are not perfect at this, and we're not talking like, oh, we've got this all figured out to a point where we never have habits that we still want to fix or things that we still want to clean up or whatever. This whole thing is such a journey, and you hear like with someone like Dustin, you hear this progression of how you kind of even find what keto even is. You hear that word for the first time, and then you start going down this rabbit hole of learning information, and it is, I think, for people that don't understand what it is we do, this is why we're so passionate about our channels doing this. For people that don't understand what it is we're doing, they don't get what kind of just amazing relief, first of all, you get from the things that are just ruining your life when you start to fix the problem, but also when you start learning, when you start gaining knowledge like Dustin and Chandra did, and it's like you're in the grocery store and you're looking at labels and you're reading things you've never considered before, and it is just mind blowing how much we are just dosing ourselves with carbs and chemicals and stuff that is hidden and we don't even know it's there because we've been taught that we're just not supposed to think about that. And it is so just mind blowing and just opens you up to completely new possibilities when you start down this path. And Dustin is a great example of, I think, how when you begin on this path, you can start changing your life so rapidly without even doing something that necessarily feels that hard. Like there's challenges for sure. There's things along the way, like keto flu, and you learn about, oh, I'm really low on electrolytes. I didn't even know that was a thing. And these kinds of things, like you have to learn as you go. But it's like you kind of get to stumble your way through it and sort of discover really cool things along the way. And then you start telling other people about it, and you get you get a little bit evangelistic about it, the whole thing. Like, and it's not like you necessarily want to go out and preach keto and carnivore to the world, but in a certain way, you kind of do, because it's like look what it has done for me, and I think that's really cool. So I'm curious. You were talking about the hernia and the issue. Like it's like this is sticking out of my stomach, and these kinds of things. Would you say it was that, or was there something else along the way that was kind of your moment or your significant experience that was like, okay, it's time to do something because I just can't take it anymore? Is it that, or is there something else that sticks out to you as well?
I think it was a culmination of a lot of all of those things, really, like the hernia, not taking care of it, the sleep apnea, not being able to breathe in my sleep, waking up choking, and just like I don't know if anybody's had sleep apnea and as bad as I had it. I had a sleep test where I stopped breathing about 70 times a minute.
Hmm.
That there's 60 seconds in a minute or whatever. It was, yeah, it was, or maybe about 60, 70 times in an hour or something like that. But it's like
Hmm.
a crazy, and it was a crazy, like I had to fight to have the test because
Hmm.
when you ask, I want to have a sleep apnea test, they ask you these questions and they're like, well, maybe it doesn't really sound like you qualify. And I was like, come on. And then they finally gave me the test and I get home and then they're like calling me like, hey, you're bad. We need to get this taken care of right now. And I'm like, okay. I was because I mean, you kind of get that in your head. They're like, oh, well, you probably don't need this. And then you test it and then you send it off. And then they called a couple times, but I was busy and I just didn't listen to the voicemail or whatever. And they're like, no, for real, you need to talk to us. I'm like, oh,
Hmm.
okay. So it's really bad. Okay. And and then you realize how important sleep is. Sleep is huge. Like if you have sleep apnea, that can cause weight gain too. It can
Yeah.
cause weight gain, hair loss. I used to have hair, okay? I mean, I'm kind of joking, but not. But like when Shannon and I met, I had hair.
Hmm.
Now it's like, I keep it short because it's not here. It used to be,
Right.
now it's not. And I my sleep apnea got worse as we were together because I got bigger and bigger.
Hmm.
And so, like I said, it's a culmination of the sleep apnea, the hernia, just being big. Like, you want to make your significant other happy. So I would come home from the grocery store. I've always been the grocery shopper basically, and I do a lot of the cooking. She works 12, 13, 14-hour shifts. So I make sure she has dinner ready when she gets home. That's the
Hmm.
least I can do. And, whatever, at the time my mom was in a nursing home, so I'd stop and see her for like a half an hour, come home, start making dinner or go to the grocery. So like, just had a full plate. So um you're just basically eating the lowest common denominator foods at that point. I mean, if you're tired and you are spread thin, you've got all these things going on, why not stop in and spend $20 to get a bag full of Taco Bell to feed the kids? Because you're going to get home and you're going to fight with them to do homework and fight with them to do dishes and you've got a full 40-hour plus week job and all these things and your mom's in a nursing home. There's just a lot of things that are all going on at the same time.
Hmm.
Um, so I think there's just a lot of that stuff going on, and that was like 2013, but that led to a lot of the weight gain, just those things. And like I said, you want to make sure you're feeding your spouse well, and that means
Hmm.
I was bringing home Oreos and her favorite ice cream almost every night. So we're eating just ridiculously bad.
Yeah.
And so when you finally get and you make those changes, it's difficult at first. I mean, it's hard.
Hmm.
And they say choose your hard, but that's easy in hindsight to say. Choosing your
Mm.
hard is very easy in hindsight because when you are making those changes, you're changing almost everything about yourself. You're changing your identity almost.
Yeah.
And going and switching that, and then as you slowly start to feel better, things start to like really open up and like I was sleeping well at night. I wasn't waking up all the time.
Hmm.
And then I was losing weight and I was buying new clothes here and there. And I was finding new things. And then I was sitting at my work desk one day, and I'd always fought that 3 o'clock slump, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock slump, where you're at your desk and you're working and you're starting to doze off, and you're like, I need to go find something. You're starting to get low. And if you're a diabetic, you know what the low feeling is. That means like you're just starting to lose your energy, you're starting to doze off, and like you start rummaging around the office because there's almost always food in an office.
Right.
Whether you should eat it or not, obviously questionable. But I would go through, I'd find tortillas, and I kept sriracha on my desk, and I'd find tortillas and just squirt sriracha on it, roll it up, and eat it. Delicious, right? Yeah. I'm not proud of it, but these are things that I did. And and then I just remember sitting there one day, and it was like 3 o'clock, and I'm just bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and I'm like, wait, I don't feel like I'm walking and trying to push through mud. That's one of those things, if you know, you know, like you're just trying to get through your day and it's a consistent sludge, like you're fighting against everything to make it through the day. And when that lifts, that was like my aha moment. That was my I'm never going back moment. Because you can lose weight, you can gain weight, you can lose weight, you can get new clothes. And you think that that's going to have a bigger impact than it does.
Yeah.
But the mental clarity was probably one of the biggest things that I've ever come across. I was like, okay, I can think. I feel like I'm living in HD. And I'm not feeling foggy. When that fog lifts, you're just like a free person. You're freed from those that prison of just sickness, sadness. I don't know a good way to phrase it.
Yeah.
But you're just free. And I'm like, okay, I'm never going back. And then over the years, there's been a lot of things that have opened up in my life, and I've been able to understand myself better. I've come to the understanding that I've been a food addict almost my entire life. Growing up poor, as a lot of us do. My mom, single mom, was always trying to make sure my brother and I had enough to eat. And she, Clean Plate Club. And I don't necessarily blame Clean Plate Club. I know there is some kind of back and forth about that, but just that nature of eating and just a famine mentality, and then on top of it usually being carb fueled, you just lose track, or you just lose any kind of satiety signaling you have. So understanding satiety signaling, understanding food addiction, understanding how to move past it. Now, I don't think I'll ever be totally free of food addiction, but as long as I have my satiety signaling, I'll be in a lot better place to handle and take charge of my own life, because there are still certainly days that it gets the better of me. And I try to be open and honest about that, because I know I'm not the only one. And it doesn't make you weak, and it doesn't mean that you failed. It doesn't mean that you're lesser of a person, because you're going to have bad days, and you're just going to that switch is going to flip, and you're just going to go back to an old, even for just a minute, an old routine where you give in. Sometimes you're going to give in. It's almost impossible to not sometimes. And that doesn't mean I'm giving permission. I'm just saying that's just the fact. It's going to probably happen to you. But the ability that a majority of the time you're going to have that desire to self-soothe whatever's stressing you out with your old ways, and you can see it and you can sidestep it and keep going, is paramount. It's huge. It's some of the biggest tools that I have now to take control of my own life. And I try to be honest with the fact that, yes, there are times where it just happens, and I'm sitting there like, oh, what did I do? You just get back and you just do it. You just start over the next meal, the next day, whatever, however it is that you need to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's really an interesting point that you are making. And I'm right there with you. And, I'm very open and honest with people about this too. So I did my 365 days carnivore thing when I was doing my health vlogs every single week when I was, first starting this channel. And I think for me, that was a really important learning tool. And since then, I have not worried about like, killing myself. Like I had a specific goal that I was just really hanging on to, and it was really hard at certain times, but I gritted my teeth and just kind of got through it because I had this specific goal in mind and I was using my YouTube channel for my own support. It's kind of why I started it and why I was doing that thing, because you're right, it is very difficult some days. Um, since I am no longer doing that, and there's also been a lot of things in our lives that have just totally changed. I'm not working the day job that I was working anymore. Ash and I go on the road and we tour, and I do this YouTube thing now full time. Like there's so many things that have changed to where there have been times that I have intentionally made the choice to not eat something that is keto or carnivore. And, I think the point you made about satiety signals is really good, because this is why, for me specifically, I do carnivore, but this is why the low carb and the heavy protein and the high fat, things that we do, it's why it's so helpful, because you get so much clearer of a satiety signal. And now I understand where that satiety signal is supposed to be. I know what my stomach feels like when my brain says, okay, I've had enough. I didn't ever get that from my brain before. So the only way I knew I had enough was when my stomach was so stuffed that I was almost physically sick. And that was when I would then stop eating in the past. And so when I kind of started doing this whole thing, I'm very much like you, where it's like that satiety signaling is very important to me. And what I have noticed for myself is, now that I know what that satiety signal is supposed to be when I'm eating things that are good for me, the times that I have had things that are not good for me, I also can now visually look at the plate and I know what is supposed to give me a satiety signal. And if for some reason it doesn't, I immediately identify it as that's a carb addiction problem for me. And so it's actually given me this control over this now. And what's really interesting is I did I did a Monday morning live where I was talking about addiction, and one of the things that I actually pulled it up. It was for like drug addiction and like rehab and recovery. I pulled up this website where they were telling people how to help others and be supportive of loved ones who have addictions. And one of the points they made was that you should never tell someone who is an addict that they are failing when they relapse. And you should never look at a relapse as a failure, because it's actually a common and important part of many people in addiction recovery that they do relapse, because it's part of their journey and their process to changing the way they look at things. And so, and again, it's not that we give people permission to do it. It's not that it's a good thing to do it. And if you can prevent doing it, great. But if it happens, Dustin makes this great point. If that happens to you, you are not a failure. You are not wrong. You're not evil. You're not worthless. You're not any of these things that we all start telling ourselves, I think, when we relapse on this kind of stuff. And, I've also talked about on my channel, like I did carnivore for a while. I did keto and then I did carnivore and I was doing good. And then after we got married, I went back off the rails. Like carb addiction reared an ugly head. I went back off the rails eating standard American diet foods, and I gained a whole bunch of my weight back. And so I kind of had to start all over. And then that's when I started just cold turkey carnivore. I was just going to I'm just going to dive in because I knew it worked for me. And I started my YouTube channel and I did all these things that I kind of learned from that relapse. What did I not have in place that made this relapse happen? And so I learned what made that happen. And now I have things that are tools that keep things under control. So I can learn, don't put myself in this situation, have this tool in place, use this. And that's made a huge difference for me. That's where my recipes have come from. So I totally agree with you. And I think that, what you're talking about, and, your understanding of satiety and kind of knowing how to deal with, okay, well, here's my past with food, and here's, all of these things that food has meant to me, and here's the lack of knowledge of what this thing is doing to my body. I mean, like you put all of those pieces together, and that tells a huge story of how you got to be that previous version of yourself. just like you can now put together a bunch of pieces that say, and then this is how I became, Dustin from Keto Simple now. And it's such an interesting progression. And I'm curious, as we're talking about like, relapse and addiction and like all of this kind of stuff and how we kind of have to keep this at bay. And I'm very much like you. I don't think I'll ever not be a carb addict. I'm just controlled in the way that I can, approach food now. Um, as you've done all of this, what's been like the biggest challenge for you during the low carb journey? Like, is there one thing or a set of things that has just kind of been coming back over and over where you're like, man, that's the hardest thing for me with this whole process every time?
I think it's shifted over time. So I don't think it's been the one hard thing. I think what was hard in the beginning, like in the very beginning, walking through the grocery store, you're going to pass the aisles with all the things that you used to enjoy, and things are going to just stick out at you, like, like the Oreos or whatever. You walk and you see they put the Oreos towards the beginning of the aisle. So you're seeing them. You're like, oh, and I would stop and I would look at, like, they make the little thin Oreos, and you're like, well, can I fit this into my 20 carb a day? Can I fit it in? Can I fit it in? I can have 2 of these and I'd probably be okay. But then you have to realize 2 isn't going to do it. I'm never going to eat just 2. I don't even eat like 2 keto friendly things. That's just one of those things I have to understand about myself. Like, when I was at my worst with with food addiction, there's probably a few nights where I probably almost went too far. And I'm trying to not say the wrong things here.
Mm-hmm.
But there's probably been a couple of times, there was probably a couple of nights where I probably almost ate too much and went too far, that I'm probably lucky to still be here just for the physical amount of food that I'd eaten.
Yeah.
Not the insulin response, not the blood sugar spikes. That's not necessarily the concern of the day to day, but just the sheer quantity of food that I would have eaten in a night. Is you're laying there and you're like, you can just feel it. And you're like, if I move wrong, this could go sideways.
Right.
And that's a scary thing, because then you just go and do it again the next day.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not much different from somebody who goes on, and drinks a case of beer.
Yeah.
And they feel like trash the next day, and then they go and do it all over again.
Mm-hmm.
And, like you said, you can't be upset with somebody in your life if you've been there. I mean, you can't be upset with somebody, because the more we move, the more we know about ourselves, the better off we are. But then there's also more things you're going to find.
Right.
So, and I'm truly thankful for this community and the outlet that I have and the platform that I have, because I think that hopefully people who are dealing with what I have dealt with will find me and find that they're not alone, that there is a way out. That's really kind of my driving goal, the overarching driving goal. Like, making friends is huge to me, and I enjoy every second of it. Getting to know you, Chris, and all the people in the chats, that's extremely fulfilling. But the overarching goal is hopefully that I can make sure and hopefully reach someone who was where I was.
Yeah.
Because you think you're alone. There's no way out. I thought that. I'm just going to keep getting bigger, and I'm going to have trouble finding more clothes, and I'm just going to keep getting bigger, and I'm not going to be able to ride on an airplane, and I'm not going to be able to do this, and I'm not going to be able to enjoy living my life because I want to be on a scooter or whatever. So,
yeah. No, I totally understand, and I totally agree. And this is one of the reasons Dustin and I have, I think, become such good compatriots in this whole low carb thing, because we very quickly realized about each other, it's like, this is another dude who has been through some stuff. Like, we've seen the dark side of what food addiction will do to you because we've lived through it. And we know there are people out there that are just like us that are still in the dark side of that. And we are trying to put out information to hopefully inspire them that they are deserving of good health and they are a worthwhile person. And it's not that they don't care. It's not that they're stupid. It's not that they're lazy. I've told people this, but I spent years thinking that I was just so lazy and so incompetent and so incapable of doing anything because no matter what I did, I could not find the energy to get up and to pursue the things that were important to me. And I knew they were important to me, but I mean, no opportunity whatsoever for me to actually find the oomph, to get up and go, to just go after something that mattered. And I thought it was just because I was a failure and I was lazy and I wasn't willing to do the work. And then after all of this keto and carnivore stuff came into my life, and then suddenly I'm doing all this. I mean, I was working 4 jobs at one point, running my YouTube channel full time, working multiple jobs, doing all this kind of stuff. And I remember I stopped and I looked at Ash one day because of how busy we were. And I said, you know what? I've come to realize I was never lazy. I was so fogged and burdened by the depression and anxiety and all the problems that came from the way I was living and the things that was going on in my body because of my diet that I couldn't tap into actually just being who I wanted to be. I was so held back by this stuff. And I know there are people out there who are feeling the same way and they struggle the same way. And Dustin and I have both been in this position where when you're laying there, like he said, you've eaten so much food just physically, you're like, if I do something, like something's going to happen internally and it's not going to end well. Like I can't move. Like I have to sit here and let my poor body try to figure out how to deal with this because I literally have done this to myself and I don't know what else to do other than lay here and try not to move. And there were times I remember getting this weird kind of like pain in the muscles in my back, and I didn't understand what was going on there. I remember one time I woke up in the middle of the night and my arms were both hurting randomly, like they just and just my arms, but they were in like severe pain in both of my arms. And this is when I was working in higher education, and I wasn't even at near my highest weight, but I was under a lot of stress and I was eating a lot of trash. And I look at these things that were happening to me and I'm like, there were so many signs my body was telling me that it was like trying to rebel against the choices I was making. And I just didn't understand what I was doing to myself. So, for you guys that are watching, this is why Dustin and I do this because like this is not a joke. It's not I mean, this is fun and we enjoy getting to be a part of this community and we enjoy the friendships and the camaraderie and supporting each other and going to events and getting to see people and like all of the wonderful, beautiful things. Absolutely. We love that. We get to do all of this stuff. And it's a huge blessing for both of us to be able to do this with our time and our lives. But it's not a joke. There are people that are sick and that are not going to live very long if people like us, and not just the two of us, but many creators here, are not out there fighting to get this information to people who are about to keel over. Like this is a real thing that there are sick and miserable, suffering people. And we know because we were those people. We were those sick, miserable, suffering people. My wife, God bless her, had a very hard conversation with me when we were dating. And I don't know why she ever stuck around, but it's one of the reasons that I know that she is an amazing woman because she loved me when honestly I didn't even know how to love myself. And she had this very difficult conversation with me. And she said, I know you think we were supposed to get married and all this kind of stuff. Because I was totally sold. I thought she was great. And I'm like, yep, we're going to get married. She wasn't so sure. And she said, I know you think we're going to get married and we're going to do all of this. She goes, I don't even know if you're going to be here in 4 or 5 years. And she's like, you're not taking care of yourself. And if you have a heart attack and you're gone and you leave me, what am I supposed to do? And she's like, you're not taking care of yourself and you're not doing anything with your life. Like, I can't even get you to get off the couch and go walk and try to do something for yourself. And I was like, really, I mean, hurt by this conversation, not because she did anything wrong, but because I didn't want to have to believe that this was true, but there was no denying it. And then when we started doing the whole keto carnivore lifestyle thing, and it led me down this long journey of, figuring all this out and the research that I did and studying everything and trying to figure this out. And then when I implemented it and my life completely changed, I started to realize this is the thing that is wrong. It's not that people are worthless and lazy and incompetent and all this other stuff. And I mean, not that some people won't maybe choose to be those things, but that's the average person who's out there who's fighting, trying to do something better. And they just say, I just don't know how I'm supposed to carry the weight of the world like this. I don't know how I'm supposed to make this happen. There are people going through that. And that's why Dustin and I do what we do, because we don't want those people to be alone. We don't ever want those people to think that this is like because they're somehow not good enough or that something is wrong with them. Like, Dr. Barry puts this really well, I think. He always says, it's not your fault, but it is your problem. And that's why
Yeah.
all of this information is here, right? It's like he puts out the medical information that he does to give people encouragement to go have these conversations with their doctors. Because remember, folks, we're on YouTube. We don't give medical advice here, but take this information, go talk to a doctor, go make yourself informed so you can choose what you want to do with your life. And you can make informed decisions to try to help yourself get to a better place. Because as he always says, also, ain't nobody coming to save you. So learn this stuff and change your own life so that you can have the life that you've deserved with all of this great health and all these things. And Dustin and I just want to encourage people, and we want to put out information to inspire people to either, as he said, don't go through it like we did, or if you are going through it like we did, don't give up and don't give in and don't stay there. Lean on us and lean on the community here and let us help you and let us encourage you. And even if it doesn't look exactly like we do it, like if you go vegan and it saves your life, great. I don't care. I'm not one of those carnivores that's going to tell you you're stupid. If it saves your life and you're happy and you're healthy and everything works, wonderful. If you do standard American diet and you just calorie count and somehow you lose all the weight and you feel great and you're doing wonderful and all your health is perfect, great. I'm going to applaud you. But regardless, I believe that I know the approach that will get you the best results, but so does everybody else on the internet. But I'm going to tell you what I believe, why I believe it, and then encourage you, whether it's what I'm doing or something else. I want to inspire everyone who watches my videos to do the work of the experimentation with their body to figure out, what do I have to do to gain my health? Like, here's all the information, make an informed decision, and you do what it takes to make yourself healthy. And that's what Dustin and I both want for everybody is, whether you do it our way or you do it some other way, I don't really care. We just want to see people thrive and feel amazing, feel incredible, and just kind of change their life the way that both of us have. Um, and again, I think any of you watching, you can probably tell this is why Dustin and I are so just passionate about doing this, because we really understand what it is like to just be lost, just lost in the darkness of, I don't know where I am or what I'm doing or why nothing is working. And we just want to be able to help you guys find your way out of it the way that we did. Um, so I'm curious, because of all of I totally relate to you. Like, I see the Oreos, or I see that for me, it was always like fast food. It was always snack cakes. It was always soda and slushies, like liquid sugar. And then, the like wanting to binge on carby things like pasta and potatoes and, like just eating massive amounts of food that are just so embarrassing for me to even tell people about. That's what it was for me. But there were things that just would draw me in when I was first starting this, especially. So, one of the things that made a big difference for me is I have figured out my favorite like keto and carnivore things on this journey, that it's like, okay, well, if I'm wanting that kind of stuff, or if I'm craving something or whatever, here's my go-to things. Like, these are my favorite things that I love having that are totally keto or totally carnivore approved, whichever one I'm, kind of doing. and this is the stuff that I lean on. This is the stuff that makes me feel good. What are like your favorite things that you have on any given day on the low carb diet that you use to enjoy your food and stabilize yourself? What do you eat regularly?
Coffee. Coffee is paramount. Coffee is the staple in my life. Like, I'm sure I might be better off. It's like one of those things, like, we get down to the nitty-gritty, the minutia of our lifestyle, and we can, like, well, we kind of get into a point where, like, we start taking things away. We've been taking things away for, almost a decade. And I'm like, well, I'm going to quit. I'm never quitting coffee. might give it up for a fast or whatever. But like, for me, like, coffee is one of those enjoying things in life that, I mean, if I'm healthier without it, I'm still going to drink it. Unless I'm having some obviously really bad, adverse reactions or whatever. But realistically, you kind of said something, and I wanted to kind of backtrack on that, and then that leads into the question you just asked me.
Yeah.
In the beginning, what I did to mitigate the cravings for all of the things that I felt I was giving up and I wasn't going to have again was I didn't really concern myself with how much food I was eating. As a food addict, I kind of knew that if I played into that with the right foods, and I mean, this is just a lucky guess, I guess you could say, right? So I would pack my lunch every day, and I would pack more food than I thought I needed. I'd boiled eggs, string cheese, pecans, butter, lunch meat, bacon, all these things, because I was working in an office. I didn't really want to go and put stuff in the fridge, so I can just sit at my desk, and it wasn't going to be a big deal. Because I was probably going to eat it before it had been too long to get too warm or whatever. So it wasn't a huge thing for me. And I was just, if I can eat enough food of the right things and keep my carbs as low as possible and eat as much as I need, I know I can succeed. And I was also, another caveat to this is, at the time when we start, or when Shannon and I started, so when we started, was butter and coconut oil coffee was the thing. You weren't keto unless you were drinking butter and coconut oil coffee.
Right.
And I would attribute a good portion of my success and my consistency. Because consistency, if you follow me long enough, you'll know consistency is one of those terms that I use a lot. So consistency with that coffee, I would have a coffee every single day for at least a year and a half. It was a 30-ounce coffee, like my little Buc-ee's mug that I drink in the mornings on my lives, with coffee, a half a stick of butter, and like 6 to 8 tablespoons of coconut oil. And I did the macros of that at one point, and it was somewhere around 165 grams of fat. And one beverage, 1,100 calories in one beverage. But that was one of those things I feel helped me find the satiety, because all that fat really does kind of help you. And you don't want to drink your calories. At that time, I was clinging to a lifeboat. I was clinging to like a raft. I was trying to be Jack and get up on the door. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I'm just doing anything in my power to hold on. And I see, and I feel that, like I said, that was one of those things I think was truly beneficial to me beyond any knowledge that I had. It was just something they said, hey, drink this. And I'm like, okay. And I was like, okay, I need to eat a lot of food. And I knew I ate a lot of food. So I packed big lunches, and I would eat until I didn't need to eat anymore. And then I was doing, another thing they were talking about with that podcast was intermittent fasting. I started at 12-12. 12, a 12-hour window is not fasting.
Yeah.
But I had to start somewhere. Because you factor in 12 hours and that's a good chunk of that sleep. 6-7 hours if you're lucky these days, that's sleep. Then you're, and then I would, and then it bumped to 14-8 or whatever, and then 16-8, and that's just one of those things. I just slowly, months went by. It wasn't like I was trying to rush any of that, but I was utilizing all the tools that I was finding out about, but at my own pace. So I was using butter coffee. I was trying to eat as much as I could, because if I was full, if I was physically full, I wasn't reaching for other things. And then I was slowly closing my eating window. And I was able to put all that together and find success. And I think that's one of those things, like, if I would have listened to the noise, you're not doing this right. There's a lot of things that I was doing wrong. I was having things with maltodextrin. I was having things with whatever sweetener or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, I was having things that the one thing I didn't do at that time because I didn't like it was diet soda. But I've eventually my taste buds and my outlook or my taste changed, and now I like diet soda and I wish I could quit. So I picked up a bad habit there, but I was doing everything I needed to do just to hang on. And I think that's one thing that when we talk about the division across our community, I think we're doing ourselves a disservice, because there's so many people who are just trying to hang on. And if you're going to like shame them over pepper, or say you had onion, or you had keto bread, or you went and you bought keto hot dog buns or whatever, they're doing whatever they can to better themselves, and they're hanging on by a thread, and you're going to tell them they're not doing it right. They're more likely to give up than they are to go, you're right. And I think that's why, that's what I'm drawn to you and everything that we're doing, because not that we shouldn't be teaching ourselves and teaching others and, putting information out there and trying to implement better things step by step, but you don't know where anybody is in their journey. Whether you're coming into a lion diet, you're coming into carnivore, whatever, you don't know where somebody is in their journey. And you see these things in posts where like, I found this. What do you guys think? And everybody just jumps on them. They're like, ugh. They're not likely to come back and talk to you again. And we want success. We want success stories, and that's not how you get them.
Yep.
So I think in a roundabout way, I answered your question and then some. But
no, absolutely. And Dustin and I absolutely connect over this, and this is why we do the work we do. We just did our first Keto Crusade live stream, where it was me and it's Dustin and it's Victor from Southern Keto, another good buddy of ours. And, that whole concept is born out of the fact that we're taking multiple communities or kind of different people on areas of the different spectrum, parts of the proper human diet. We're taking people in different places with different approaches, whatever, and we're putting it all together into a community, because I think you're absolutely right that there's this weird factioning that has started to happen over time with like keto and carnivore and all this stuff. And it's like, okay, well, you have your low carb people over here, and then you have your dirty keto people in a group here, and then you have your clean keto people here, and then you have your super meat heavy keto people here, and then you have your ketovore people here, and then you have your carnivore people here, and then you got your lion diet people, and none of those groups can be friends. And it's like, there's more things that we all have in common than there are things we have different. And I think that, the idea that as a group, we can all sit at the same dinner table and we can adjust slightly what things we season the food with, and whether we reach for some of the veggies or not. And do we put the burger patty on a keto bun, or do we eat it with a fork? Like, it's little tiny differences like that that make how each of us approach this what it is. And at the end of the day, those are such minuscule little things that it's like, as long as we're all feeling great and we're all enjoying our life, it doesn't really matter. And, Dustin and I, and we work with Victor on this thing for Keto Crusade, and there's other creators we like to work with. Like, we're doing this with the intent of showing people, like, we don't all have to fight about this. Like, if you find a new product and you really like it and it works great and you want some advice or you want some feedback, okay, cool, we can give that. If you're just saying, hey, I found this, it works really well for me, just thought I would share, like, awesome. I'm going to read the label. If it works for me, awesome, I might try it. And if it doesn't, I won't. And then I'm just going to move on with my life. And it's no big deal. As long as it works for you, that's great. And I think, Dustin said something about, we kind of want to continue to, like, learn and educate ourselves and, clean things up and get better and all this stuff. And we do. And we always want to take, okay, here's where I am. Here's the next step. How do I get cleaner? How do I get a little better? How do I move towards this other thing? And that's a one step thing at a time. And it's a journey and it's a process. And I think that, maybe sometimes there's a misunderstanding. I've had this on my channel because, I do recipes as a carnivore. And I mean, I'm going to carnivore hell for that, according to some people. And then I'm okay with that. I'm more than happy to be the person that kind of bears the brunt of those comments, because people that are like me, or like I used to be, that are looking for hope, it's okay for them to see someone like me receive that comment and go, well, no, and here's why you're wrong. And, like, I will tell you exactly why I do what I do, and I will defend the idea that if it's working and it's what helps people get one more step down the road, then okay, cool, let's do that. Because then we say, okay, I made it one more day. I made it one step further. I tried this thing because I was finally willing to give it a shot. And I thought, oh, maybe there's hope for me because I can use this recipe, or I can use this keto product, or whatever the thing is that gets you to where you can go ahead and give it a shot. You can just believe in yourself long enough to try it. And then as you do it, and as you get cleaner, and as you get farther down that road, you go, okay, well, I'm still experiencing blah, blah, blah. I wonder if I cut out the such and such I'm using probably too much of. I wonder if maybe that would help. And so then you can cut out one, little thing, like, oh, because, like, you're talking about diet soda. It's like, well, my taste changed and now I actually like diet soda and now I wish I could get rid of it. Cool. So somewhere along the way, when Dustin goes, okay, I wonder if the diet soda is maybe holding me back from achieving this next step. Well, then you start reducing your diet soda intake and you start to cut that back out. And then eventually you get rid of that. And maybe it improves and maybe it doesn't. Maybe you realize it's not really that big of a deal. But, I think that's so cool, though. You're talking about kind of this journey and figuring out, like, how do we all work together as a big community and figure out, wherever each of us is, what's that one next step we can do that might improve our lives, and figuring out what tools we can use to make that applicable. And that's what we do. That's why we're here. That's why we care so much about this, because I don't want to sit at the table and fight with people who eat keto products and eat keto sweeteners and all that kind of stuff. Like, yeah, I may be a carnivore guy, but sometimes I like to lean over into the keto camp and I like to enjoy a few things. And then I like to lean over almost to the lion diet camp and have certain days where it's like I'm eating beef patties all day long and that's all I'm having. And I kind of I flex back and forth depending on the day. And when there's times that it's like I need to fix what I'm doing and tighten up a little bit, cool, I will. And then there's other times I want to celebrate and I kind of lean a little the other way. And I want everyone to know that, you know, we can all work together and support each other in our approaches. Dustin's approach to the proper human diet is very different than mine. Like, he goes and buys certain products that I don't. And I take the time to work on crazy recipes that he doesn't want to sit there and take 2 hours to do like I would, like we have two different lifestyles in that way. And he's got things with his family that are different than the things with my family, and our schedules look different, and all of these different things, but we get along so well. Because if he goes, I found this amazing keto tortilla and it doesn't spike my blood sugar at all, and it tastes really great, and now I'm doing these, tortilla wrap sandwiches for lunch, and it just saved me 30 minutes of prep time because I can just open it up, pull it out, and throw meat on it and go. I'm like, man, I'm so glad to hear that. I celebrate that. I think that's awesome that you have this thing you love. And if I go, hey, Dustin, I'm working on a recipe for such and such thing, and it's like this really unique thing, and it takes 4 hours, but man, it's totally worth it. And he's like, that's awesome. I'm probably never going to do it, but that sounds really cool. And he's really happy that I do. And we support each other in this way. And it's so vital, I think, to the success on whatever version of this proper human diet thing you're doing, to have those people around you that are encouraging you in it.
I think
And
that
you were
might have been
kind
one of the first comments I ever left on one of your videos.
of
I was like, that looks awesome. I'm not going to make it, but that's cool. Like I can tell you put a lot of work into that.
Yes, absolutely. I'm pretty sure that was one of the first comments, and I thought it was so cool that it's like, the honesty that it takes to say, I'm never going to do the amount of effort that it takes to make that recipe, but I can also sit here and celebrate the fact that you came up with that thing and you enjoy it. Like, that's how we all work together in this thing. I think that's really cool. And, I had written down this thing I wanted to make sure to ask, what do you think is like your purpose and your calling in the keto and carnivore community? But I honestly think, like, both of us are very aligned in our purpose and our calling in this. And, you have really expressed it quite well and quite thoroughly, I think, as we've been sitting here talking. And if people don't know at this point that it's your goal to just save as many people as possible by inspiring them that they can do it because they're worthwhile and that they're loved by all of us here, then I don't think those people have probably been listening. So is there anything you would like to add with your purpose and your calling other than what we've already talked about?
One thing that I try to do, and I fail quite often, is try not to go out of my way and I try not to, like, I'm trying to think of the word, but like when you're having a conversation with somebody and they bring up something and you're like, and you start dumping on them all the keto stuff or carnivore stuff and all the thing. I've done it a couple of times this week. And I know, like, even in the process of me talking, my brain's like, dude, shut up, dude, stop. This is not the way. This is not the way. They don't care. They're not ready yet. And I'm like, and it just falls out of my mouth. And I'm just like, I mean, and I've struggled with that a lot because, like, once you find something that will benefit somebody, and if you've had people in your life that you've lost prior to having this knowledge, then you're afraid that that's going to happen to people that you can help, even though you shouldn't. They need to come to you. Like, so I guess one of my things is I want people to find me, and when they're ready to find me and they're ready to kind of move forward on what their journey looks like. And so I'm always trying to better myself, whether it's not being that guy that I can be and not like beating people over the head with it, because I've done it this week twice and I know I shouldn't, because then even after I'm done, I feel bad. But I want to just be a resource, and it sounds cheesy or sounds whatever, big-headed or whatever. I want to be an inspiration. And I want people to know, if even if it's just that they know that they're not alone. Yeah. Because I know Evelyn's in the chat, and one of the first things that I remember Evelyn saying at Ketopalooza 23, she had made me a bracelet, and we had met, but it wasn't until she said something at the testimonial on the Sunday. She's like, I was alone, and now I found you all, and I'm no longer alone. And I'm sitting there like filming this, and tears are running down my face, and I'm like, trying not to get that sound in the camera. Of me crying like a little baby, you know what I mean? I'm like, and I just know that that's the thing, is just people who find us know that no matter what they do, no matter how many times they stumble, they fail, or however you look at it, we're going to be here. As long as I'm breathing and as long as I have the ability to do this, I'm going to be here. It doesn't matter if I'm making money or if I have to have 2 jobs to do whatever I have to do, because I just picked up a job. I've basically been a stay-at-home grandpa for a long time, and now I've kind of got out and got a job and trying to reacclimate myself to the outside world. It's scary out there.
I know, right?
But I'm going to do everything in my power to be here as much as I can to bring you as much content as I can and talk your ear off as much as you'll listen and hang out with Chris. And I'm looking at maybe, because I'm going to probably not be working on Friday, so I'm going to bring my Saturday mornings talks with people to Fridays if anybody's interested during the day, if anybody can watch or listen or whatever. But that's just I'm going to be here. And I know Chris is going to be here. And Ash is going to be right along with him, and Shander's going to be with me, and we're all going to be here, and hopefully you guys come with us.
Absolutely. I mean, that's a way to wrap inspiration up in a nutshell, isn't it? I mean, and I think it's, it's funny we say, like, we don't want to seem lofty or arrogant with our, I want to be an inspiration to people. Like, we don't want to come across that way. But at the same time, I also feel like when it comes to these kinds of things, I can tell you from my personal experience, when I was so lost and so overweight and struggling so much, man, I was looking for something to inspire me, because I certainly didn't have any of my own inspiration. I think that's a thing when you're that lost in the midst of all of that stuff you're going through. Like, you have absolutely no idea what you're supposed to do to try to get anywhere. And you cannot inspire yourself out of the funk that you're in and inspire yourself out of that dark hole. Like, you can't. You cannot get something from inside you to be so bright and so wonderful that it just lifts you up out of the midst of what you're in. I really think it takes other people who love and care about you, who have information that they can share with you, that they can use to try to inspire you. I think it's what makes all the difference, and it's just amazing. Before I miss it, I just want to pop up here. Mr. Sean Bradley sent a $25 super chat. Thank you, my friend. You, sir, are wonderful. He says, you two are such a blessing to so many people, me included. Your stories and the sincerity in your voice when you share your passion are inspirational. You bring to light a subject that everyone else avoids. Bravo. Well, Sean, we really appreciate that. And, Dustin and I have known each other a while, not like years or anything, but we've known each other a while, and we've done a little bit of work together. We're going to do a lot more, but it didn't take long, I don't think, for either of us to figure out that the other one is not afraid of this difficult stuff. And we are happy to talk about the stuff that maybe some other people shy away from, because I think both of us were at a place where we needed this kind of information, and we did not always find it very easily. And we had to do a lot of work and a lot of research to learn this stuff. And we want to make it as easy for other people who might need a little bit of that extra encouragement to find this info. So that's why we do what we do. Dustin, you were speaking of Evelyn. She is here. I just wanted to give her a quick shout out. I met her at Keto Palooza, and she is an absolute sweetheart. We are very blessed to have the community that we do and to have all of you guys here. It truly is something special. And I know there's a bunch of people in the chat here. I'm kind of looking through to make sure we're not missing any questions or anything before we wrap up for you guys tonight. And love, music, and learning makes a good point here. And this is what Dustin was alluding to. I want everyone I know to learn about carnivore and keto, but many aren't ready to listen. And I know there was a time I wasn't ready to listen. I'm sure, Dustin, you would probably say there was a time you weren't ready either.
No, there was a long time I wasn't ready, because I just wanted to eat. I didn't want to give up anything.
Yeah. It's really interesting when you sort of get on the outside of all of this and you look back at who you were. I really don't recognize myself when I look back at who I was, and it takes so much to kind of get yourself away from it just takes so much to get away from the stuff that is just completely engulfing your whole thought process when you're in the midst of all of that. When you can't do anything but think about food, it's really rough. It really, really is. And that's why we try to inspire people like you can be free of this because I know Dustin and I both absolutely feel free. Um, Sherry Reagan is here, says, any suggestions to encouraging hubby to try to cook more? Invite them to assist? Yeah. There's two things I'll say about this. If you want to encourage somebody to cook, I think figuring out what things they would like to eat and helping them understand like the appreciation for the effort that goes into making it really good, like treating it like art. It's one thing to try to convince somebody to create art, but it's another thing when you convince them to create art because they like that kind of art. So it's much easier to learn how to draw when you get to draw something that matters to you or these kinds of things. So I think that's part of it is let's try to encourage people to assist with cooking when it's something that they really want to enjoy and all this different kind of stuff. The other thing is cooking, part of it is that cooking I think is a love language. I cook for people because I say I love you by doing so, and I love to do that. Some people have very different love languages than that. And like Ash, she does not cook. She's never going to want to cook. It is not a thing she has any interest in doing. Like, we've talked about it. Like, if we decide to have kids someday, she's like, I'll learn some basic things because I would want to be able to feed my kids, obviously. But she's like, if it really comes down to like, we're going to cook and we're going to do all this kind of stuff and make this really great stuff, she's like, that's going to be dad's job. And that's okay because she has talents in completely different areas. um I think, Sherry, if you want to encourage your husband to cook, um understanding maybe, does he find cooking super stressful, and if so, is there a way to make that easier? Can we make it approachable? Is there a reason that you want him to cook with you that is important to you? Like, there's two people at play in any situation like that. And, when you have people in the kitchen, it should be all about the love and the feeding and giving of resources to somebody else because you love them. And, understanding where his perspective is on that would make it a lot easier for you to then know, like, what can you do that would encourage him, that would mean a lot to him. So I think that would be my advice. Do you have any thoughts on that, Dustin?
Yeah, I would say talk to him. Find out what he would enjoy cooking. How would he enjoy cooking? It might be something you could look in and get, a smoker or a grill, outdoor cooking, not to generalize, but a lot of guys like to cook on the grill. That typically kind of gets kind of relegated to men's work or whatever. Men cook on grills or
Mhm.
whatever. I mean that may be something he's interested in. You know I grew up learning to cook from my great grandparents. So cooking along with my great grandmother in the morning, making my own breakfast, learning to cook on a cast iron skillet and make eggs with bacon grease, and those were things. So I have very fond memories of learning to cook. And then I was told stories because I was very, very young when my grandfather, my mother's father, passed away. But he was always touted as this amazing cook. And they always said, as I grew up, I was like able just to kind of cook and figure it out and just do things without even looking at recipes or whatever. And that's kind of
Mhm.
come into a lot of the recipes that I've created. I have recipe videos too. They're not as awesome as Chris's, but I have some. But you know, just finding out what they want to cook, just pull them in. Like bring them in and just, be romantic about it. I don't know, try to find a spark there. Just,
Mhm.
make out a little bit. I don't know. I don't know what you guys do. Just have
That's right.
fun with it. Just find the fun in it.
That's
Because
right.
yeah, like Chris says, if it's stressful, they're not going to want to do it. But like, if you can kind of relieve that, for whatever reason, why ever, make it fun. Make it, just laugh and joke and And that's my kind of way to get around everything is, I mean, just,
Yeah. Totally agree. Make it as fun as you possibly can. It's kinda
yeah.
like teaching kids to cook, when you make it fun for kids, like, kids learn to cook that way, so, speaking of kids, Love Music Learning wants to know, Dustin, how do your kids feel about eating keto now?
Our oldest wasn't living at the house when we started, and she refuses. She has some issues that would probably be cleared up with going keto or carnivore, but she's not ready. They look at it they look at it differently. They look at it as they can't afford it. And there's no real talking them into it, I guess. Our middle kid, he knows because he's done it for a while and he'll lose weight and he'll feel better, but then he's also lazy. So then he'll end up eating fast food and all this because, he's young, he's going to be 25 and there's just not a lot of time to cook or whatever. And he likes to make pasta. So, and then the young one, he doesn't care. He's 20 and he has a night job and it's just easier just to make whatever. So they'll hopefully find it when they need it. Not that they couldn't benefit from it now, but there's no amount of me preaching to them that's going to make a difference. And they always joke to me anyway, like, the old saying in the house was, if you get a flat tire, that wouldn't have happened if you were keto. So,
Absolutely. Well, and I think, when people have gone through something that really inspires them to realize why it matters so much, including the kids when they get older and then suddenly they've gone through something, it's a lot easier for people to listen. And I mean, some people kind of never get to the point where they really want to listen, but um, you know, Dustin and I both had to reach a point where it's like this is kind of the point of no return. Like we go any further and there will be no coming back. And that inspires you to really change and make a big difference in your life. So Rock and Keto Amy, I love this comment. Says, thank you both for being so honest. I feel like putting myself out there means being judged, especially having a finger pointed at me that she didn't take her own advice. We are human. Yeah, Amy, it's I won't lie, putting yourself out there online, like you open yourself up to all kinds of criticism, but you also open yourself up to an amazing community full of support. And I've come to realize, and it's taken a while for me to start to understand this, and I still don't know if some days I fully understand it, but you come to realize the people that judge and that point out all the little things you're doing wrong, it's because they're not doing enough with their own life and they have nothing to do but sit there and point out all the things they think you're doing wrong. And unless it's someone that you look at as an inspiration, someone you love, someone that knows your ins and outs, and someone who you value their opinion, um, I just don't think it really matters if people want to point a finger anymore. And it's taken me a long time to learn that because you do get some of that being on the internet, but you get a lot more of people who understand you because they're all right there in the boat with you, and they have their own versions of it that they're struggling with too. So, um, let's see. Just want to make sure we didn't miss anybody's questions here tonight. Dustin, do you have any final thoughts for anybody before we kick them all off here tonight? Let everybody get back to their lives.
I just want to say thank you all for spending the night with us, hanging out with us, giving us your time, your attention. It's so very valuable, and I appreciate that very, very much. Like Chris has said, I do a live on Sunday mornings, 7:30 in the morning Eastern Standard Time. If you are inclined to be awake, come hang out with us. I'm just thankful to have this community and thankful to have friends like Chris and all of you and getting to share our experiences and our missteps and our successes. And again, hopefully make a difference for somebody.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. I think this is the only one that I've found, but Amy also asked, how do I help my friends who are struggling with weight and health, who seem to want help, but tell me they just can't do keto, they just can't give up all the stuff? Any advice? Encourage them that when they're ready, it'll be there. I think it's, I think it's you can't change the way the body works, and you can't change what is happening to them as a result of the food that they eat. And when it's like I can't give this stuff up, you can share my channel with my recipes and be like, hey, you don't have to give everything up. Like, here's options. There's other keto creators out there that do all kinds of cool recipes. Like, show them that there's options. And at the end of the day, the best thing you can do for a lot of times for those people is you share the information, and then you sit back and you kind of let them make their decision, and you just let them know you love them regardless. And when they're ready to try, they can always come to you for questions. And I think that's the best thing I have to offer. Do you have any additional thoughts on that, Dustin?
It's sort of a twofold answer. Unfortunately, you can't help everybody. And I've even this last year lost a friend to type 1 diabetes who's younger than me. And I tried to reach out to them and tried to appeal to them, and it didn't have any impact, and some people you're going to reach and some you're not. And I mean, I think if you're dealing with people who are truly close to you, that you know very well, then you'll kind of find ways to get in there a little bit. I have a friend that has ulcerative colitis, and I've been kind of working on him for about 5 years now, little by little. You can't be too forceful. In the beginning, I was, and like I say, I do struggle with that
Mhm.
because I genuinely do care, but that doesn't matter. And I just have to know, you have to know boundaries, because you don't
Mhm.
want to overstep and hurt someone in the process of trying to help them. Because if you
Yeah.
hurt them, they're just going to resist you all the harder. So
Mhm.
that's why every once in a while I'll see an article that's in a way that I think would appeal to him, and I'll send it over. Maybe a celebrity has dealt with this and have fixed something, or something that's you know in that vein or whatever. You're going to have people who will look at I've had people in my life who have come to me that I've been friends with for a long time, and they think that I'm doing the wrong thing.
Mhm.
They think I'm spreading a dangerous message.
Right.
And you have to acknowledge that as well. You have to understand, is there a percentage where I am spreading the wrong message? It's very well possible.
Mhm.
It's not probable, or it's not likely, I guess, but anything's possible.
Mhm.
But you're gonna have friends and people who distance themselves. I've had people who distance themselves over this stuff, and it's weird. Or you reach out to somebody and you say, "Hey, have you tried this?" Not even pushing something on them, just the idea of it. Have you even
Mhm.
looked at the realm of possibilities that this could be something you're looking for?
Yeah.
And sometimes they're going to be nasty about it. And you just you
Mhm.
can't necessarily take it personal. So I know, like, you don't want your friends to give up. You don't want people you care about to suffer. You don't want, I mean, I like to think that we're all good people, and nobody wants their friends to go through that. And I just think, just kind of slow and steady wins the race. Continue to do what you do and make it visible to them, and but from a distance kind of thing. You're showing them what you do and you're sharing your successes, but not necessarily to them directly, but where they can see you. Because at the
Mhm.
same time, I've also had experiences with friends that I didn't know were paying attention to me, and I didn't know were doing the things that they see me do, until they come to me years later or months later and they say, I've been following what you do, and I don't say anything, but I've been doing it, and I've done this and this and this. And that's highly impactful as well. So we're going to have our wins and we're going to have our losses. So I think with that,
Mhm.
that sentiment, just be the best example you can be, I guess. I mean, because you can't beat them over the head, you can't tie them up and put them in the basement.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you have that, you just want to like just grab them up and just listen to me, but it's not going to work. Unfortunately, it's not going to work.
Yeah. Yep. I totally agree. I think, there's only so much we can do, and that's why Dustin and I do what we do. We try to be here to be examples, not because we want everyone to look at us as like we've got it all figured out and they should try to be exactly like us, because
Because
we
I
want people to
don't.
look at us, because we definitely don't. But we want people to look at us and go, here's two guys, real dudes who have really changed their lives by doing real stuff, and they still really struggle with real things on a daily basis like everybody else. And we're not pretending to be something we're not. We want people to be able to relate to what it is we do, because it's the way it actually works. And that's what we do. So we are here for you guys. We appreciate this, being a platform that we can do this with and just try to help people. Dustin, thank you so much for joining me, for sharing so candidly about your struggles, about where you are in your journey, about the imperfections that still exist, and just for giving us all an insight into who you are. It truly is a pleasure, and I love getting to do this. But one of the best parts about this has been some of the friends I have made. Dustin is very very much just a part of our family at this point, and whether he likes it or not, he's stuck with us. So we just appreciate you and just being on here sharing your story. So thank you so much for doing that for us tonight.
I'd do anything for you. Thank you so much. I appreciate you for having me on and helping us all shift the paradigm, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, guys, Dustin's channel is going to be linked in the description box on all of my channels. He's very easy to find. Just go to YouTube and type in Keto Simple. You'll see his logo with the beard popping up. And if you don't subscribe to him already, please go to his channel, subscribe, jump in on those live streams. You'll find me there on the Sunday live streams, hanging out and interacting. And Dustin and I are going to be doing some more stuff together in the future. So you guys keep an eye out for that. But in the meantime, make sure to just go support him, and make sure to show him all the love. We appreciate you guys very much for being here. Thank you, Dustin, for being here, for taking the time. We wish all of you guys the most wonderful evening and an amazing Thanksgiving coming up, because that's coming real fast.
Yeah.
We just hope you guys are ready, because it's going to be crazy with all the families, I know. So thank you guys for being here, and we will catch all of you very, very soon. This is Chris Cooking Nashville and Dustin over here from Keto Simple. We love you guys. Make sure to eat your meat, love your life, lean on this community for support. Come be a part of this with us, and we will see you guys very soon for more live streams, more amazing videos, and hopefully maybe a little bit of inspiration. Guys, have a great night.